Now you also have some villains in the early church. Can you tell us about Arius, because he seems central to the whole, in fact, driving Orthodox faith forward to clarify what we mean about certain things.
Yeah, the First Ecumenical Council was primarily about Arius. It wasn't just about him. There were Gnostic things that had to be dealt with. Somehow you had to decide, and somehow you had to create a New Testament also, because as you know, there were maybe 50 or 55 Gospels floating around, and numbers of epistles supposedly of apostles, and all kinds of eschatological writings, or as they're wrongly called, apocalyptic writings around. And somebody had to sort through all that. But when Arius began to teach that Christ was really human, but endowed with special grace, sort of like the adoptionist, where Christ becomes the Son of God later, then you have a serious problem about what redemption consists in. And Arius was a presbyter from Alexandria, highly educated, philosopher, and very articulate. Well, for him, the idea that Christ was truly God, the Son of God, was something that he couldn't grasp. And it's obvious that he also didn't grasp what redemption and salvation actually consist in. He might have been more comfortable with the atonement theory, where Christ was just the whole incarnation of God in Christ was simply to constitute a fit sacrifice that could satisfy the Father's justice. Well, he might have seen it that way. But of course, St. Athanasius the Great and others responded right away, because the whole gospel of redemption is the reunion of God and man in Christ, because he's perfect God and perfect human. And without that unity of Christ, then you don't really have the possibility of redemption. Certainly not the conquering of the power of death in Christ. So Arius got quite a substantial following, and he preached quite broadly and was popular amongst his followers. But the crisis that developed was so divisive and so upsetting that Constantine, and perhaps, we don't know for sure, perhaps on the advice of some of the bishops, summoned the First Ecumenical Council to sort this out, because this had become now a serious matter that was dividing the church and the empire. I think Constantine might have been more interested in the division of the empire, but okay, what is the actual Christian faith? What is the actual gospel? What has been handed down from the apostles and the first church fathers ordained by the apostles? So the First Ecumenical Council came together to resolve this issue that Arius had raised. The Arians sent out missionaries. And some of the missionaries we know had gone to what is today Saudi Arabia, and those big trade centers. And Islam actually developed from the Arian heresy originally. You know, the missionaries were there. So the impact of Arius is still felt, is still strong. And so the First Ecumenical Council met primarily to respond to Arius, because the teaching of Arius destroyed the gospel of salvation. Not that they wanted to establish or create a doctrine, but that which was understood by the Holy Fathers and made clear in the liturgy was being challenged by Arius' teaching. So the First Ecumenical Council came together, dealt with Arius and several other issues, and really started forming what we now call the New Testament.